Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to do the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 25th of July 2022. So let us quickly have a look on the topics that we are going to discuss for the day. So these are the important listed articles for the day. We are going to discuss these articles one by one. So let us look into the first topic. It says out of bounds. Okay. So in this article we will understand about bail related nitty gritties. So we are going to talk about like what Supreme Court of India has said in a recent judgment related to bail. Okay. So this topic is relevant from Indian polity point of view. Apart from this, we will talk about the next topic. It says weighing in on India's investment-led revival. Okay, so in this topic we are going to understand about like what are the perspectives of rebuilding the economy, how Indian government is trying to make the economy revive. So in this article the author has taken the viewpoint that the government of India is taking the investment route. Government of India is willing to invest in certain projects and in various policies so that like we can revive the Indian economy. So we will discuss this thing in detail in this article. Apart from this, the third topic is related to 5G spectrum. So it says 5G spectrum auction from tomorrow. Okay. So recently we are going to witness how 5G spectrum is going to be auctioned by the government of India. And in this article we are going to look into which companies have applied for 5G spectrum auction and like what are the details related to it. So we are going to discuss about it. This topic is important under Indian economy, okay, Indian economy perspective, and also important for the science and technology section. Apart from this, we are going to look into another topic. It says China launches second space station module. Okay, so China is launching multiple modules for the space station that it is creating. So it has recently launched the second module. First module Tianwen 1, it was launched earlier. Now this is the second module. We are going to discuss the name of this module, and after this they are going to launch another module, the third module. So this will complete China's mission to have its space station above the surface of the earth. So we are going to discuss in detail about this topic. It is important for the science and technology section. After this we are going to talk about the fifth topic. It says MC12 over, its gains for the developed world. Okay, so ministerial level conference has recently conducted for the World Trade Organization, which is in short known as WTO. Okay, so that meeting has recently concluded, and like in that meeting some of the countries' proposals have been accepted, some of the countries' proposal have been declined. So in this article we are going to talk about like how India fared in this in this ministerial conference, like whether India was a winner or it was a loser. And this article says that the Western countries, right, they became winners in this particular ministerial level conference. Okay, that was conference number 12. So we are going to discuss all of it in this article, and the last topic is related to international organizations under international relations. Okay, so this is important for GS paper 2, and apart from this it is also important for the external sector of Indian economy. So part of GS paper 3. So we are going to talk about the interdisciplinary nature of this topic. Okay, so let us quickly take the first topic for discussion today. So this is the first topic of discussion for the day. So let us quickly discuss about like what this article is all about. So recently the Supreme Court of India has made some observations related to how high courts, are giving judgments. Okay, and so when it comes to giving bail, okay, when it comes to granting bail, so various high courts have put certain restrictions, certain conditions on the people who are seeking for bail. And these conditions sometimes are very unique in nature, sometimes like it is not that much liked by the higher courts of law like the Supreme Court of India. And also the high courts are putting certain restrictions on the people. So these restrictions little bit go beyond the judicial judicial boundary. So in this article, the Supreme Court of India has recently made observation in which, like, you know, a case was going on against Azam Khan. So Azam Khan is a politician from Uttar Pradesh, right? And so, like, there were cases against him. One of the cases related to land grabbing. Land grabbing means, like, you know, so it was in the news that Azam Khan actually, like, so his parents, great grandparents and grandparents, okay, so like, so they have been staying, I mean, like, they are Indians, so they have been staying, like, you know, before partition. So during partition, some of their family members, I mean, like, you know, the relatives, they joined Pakistan. So, like, you know, they went to Pakistan, and, like, you know, he and his family, like Azam Khan, they stayed back in India. So, like, that time, like, it was an option for people, like, whether they want to like go that side or stay this side, you know, during partition. So, lot of things happen. We will not go into the history aspect of it now. So, what has happened, like, you know, so the relatives of Azam Khan, like, you know, who went to Pakistan, they left some of the land, and that land is, like, you know, is in the name now, is in the name of Azam Khan. So there were cases filed against him that, like, he has grabbed land. Okay, so the courts have been hearing, I mean, like, you know, bail applications related to it. Okay, so FIRs have been you know, filed against him. So, like, so while granting the bail, right, so the Allahabad High Court, like, which is the High Court for Uttar Pradesh, the Allahabad High Court has told that, like, Azam Khan will have to, like, you know, he has to, like, Azam Khan will have to, like, cooperate fully with the measuring, walling and bar wiring of a piece of property which measures around 13.842 hectares. Okay, so he has to cooperate with the authorities so that the authorities can, okay, sorry. So he has to cooperate with the authorities, so the so that the authorities can, okay, measure the land, they can make walls around the land, and also they can put wires, okay, on those walls. Okay, so, like, if he does this, like, only then bail would be granted. Okay, so these are the conditions that has been put by the Allahabad High Court. But, like, not only this case, like, you know, there have been multiple similar instances. In one of the instances, like, one of the High Court in India, so what it has said, like, it has, you know, told one of the accused, like, one of the accused in like molesting cases, that, like, he has to visit the home of the person who has accused, and, like, you know, ask her to tie Rakhi. Okay, so these are some of the incidents, like, these are some of the judicial pronouncements where the courts are you know, like, going little deeper into the social fabric, and, like, you know, so what is happening, like, the judiciary, like, higher judiciary wants to maintain its sanctity. Okay, so so these incidences are not in fine tune with the judicial things. Okay, so that's why the Supreme Court of India has raised its voice, and, like, you know, it has given stern disapproval of the tendency among some of the courts to impose unusual conditions for bail. Okay, so this is the thing, and it is a fairly well established, okay, it is fairly well established that conditions for grant of bail have specific objectives. Like, what should be the objectives of you know, conditions, putting conditions for granting bail? This is for preventing the accused from fleeing justice and precluding any scope of tampering with the evidence or influencing witnesses. Okay, so these are the, like, you know, these are general conditions. But, like, nowadays we are seeing that the high courts, I mean, like, high courts have given pronouncements on which the Supreme Court of India has, you know, come up and voiced its, like, you know, disapproval for those kind of pronouncements. Okay, so these objectives are usually secured by directing, like, here the author is mentioning that, like, what are the objectives of putting conditions on granting bail, right? So these objectives are usually secured by directing them to stay in a particular place and asking them to record their presence before a police officer or a court at a specified frequency. Okay, and courts are normally not exempt from to impose any conditions that may impinge on freedoms of the accused or be too onerous for compliance. Okay, so they have mentioned about you know, Madhya Pradesh High Court decision in one of the bail granting cases. So like so Supreme Court of India has also talked about this particular thing. So Supreme Court of India has denounced the attempt to convert a molester into a brother by judicial mandate. Okay. So these, now let us talk about what is the conclusion in this article. Okay, the conclusion is like judiciary should have some kind of restraint for itself while giving pronouncements, like in which way, so that like the judicial integrity, judicial sanctity must be upheld. Okay, although like these things are not written in fine tune like in law books, but like there is something, some notion of what we say, some notion of being elite, some notion of being maintaining the sanctity. So this is what the Supreme Court of India is trying to uphold. Okay, so here, while our sharp observations, whether oral or part of detailed order, can often help in conveying a sense of the judicial conscience, their perfunctory use in a manner that undermines public confidence in the court's impartiality is best avoided. Okay, so these are the things. Okay, these are the things. So now with this, let us take another article, and this topic is related to Indian economy. In this topic, we are going to discuss about like how the government of India is planning to revive the Indian economy. Okay, so in this article, let's discuss about that. So it says weighing in on India's investment-led revival. Okay, so the Finance Minister of India recently pronounced, like during budget speech and like elsewhere also, the Finance Minister has a vision that we want to revive the Indian economy, and they have taken multiple steps, and one of those steps is one of the most prominent step as well. So like Government of India wants to invest in certain projects through certain policies. Okay, so this is known as investment led revival. But in this article, the author has tried to weigh, means like try to measure like how investment led revival can be beneficial, and what can be its like what can be the pros, or like what can be the difficulties that like we can witness in this case. Okay, so here they have given a graph also, like in different years, like the share of gross capital formation. Gross capital formation basically is an economic term, okay, as a percentage of GDP. So it is an economic term that actually says like when government invests in formation of capital. For example, the Government of India is making a airport, it is making railway lines, right, and it is helping in development of certain infrastructure that will be used by the public at large, okay, or by some organizations of the government, okay, that will be beneficial ultimately to the public. So this is known as investment led revival. Okay, so we use a terminology that is known as gross fixed capital formation, means like we are doing investment, but like we are forming some capital assets out of it, that is known as gross fixed capital formation. So in this article, they have given the data, like in which year, in which sectors we have invested what portion of the GDP in the form of gross fixed capital formation. So let's quickly have a look into this particular graph. So here they have mentioned in the year 2011-12, okay, on agriculture it was 8.5%, industry 38.1%, manufacturing 19%, services this thing, and transportation this. Okay, so these are the like gross fixed capital formation as percentage of GDP. So this is the thing. Okay, apart from this, like they have also mentioned, okay, for different years 2011-12, 2014-15, 2019-20, and so like this ranges from year to year in different sectors. So gross fixed capital formation is a kind of economic term. It helps us to understand like how much government is investing in creating capital assets for the economy. Okay, so here the author is saying that like while creating these assets, the government have to invest a huge amount of money, and like government has certain other policies also. So if government focuses on those policies, that will be a better step to revive. and at the same time the author is also talking about, you know, Make in India initiative. The government has made the author has made some criticism related to it. Okay, so it says that the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman said recently India's long term growth prospects are embedded in public capital expenditure programs, and she added that an increase in the public investment would crowd in or pull in private investments. So like, you know, the finance minister is of the opinion that like if we increase the public investment, it will also influence private investment. Okay, so that will help in the reviving of the economy. The minister was speaking at the third G20 finance ministers central bank governors meeting hosted by Indonesia and Bali. Okay, so recently the finance minister of India has attended, the finance ministers and central bank governance meeting in Indonesia and Bali, and there she has mentioned about this particular thing. So with this we will also talk about, like, you know, lag in investment. Okay, lag in investment means we want to invest now, but like, you know, somehow the projects get delayed, the fund dispersal get delayed. Okay, so like it leads to, like, you know, delaying in the achievement of the targeted objectives. Okay, so here it says that like public investment led economic growth has a respectable academic pedigree and forms a credible stance of explanation for India's post independence economic growth. And here the author has given an illustration also. He says that when it was faced with a slowdown after the Asian financial crisis in 1997, the Atal Bihari Vajpayee led NDA government initiated public road building projects. Okay, so like, you know, during when Asian financial crisis happened in 1997, so the prime minister that time, right, he initiated a public road building project. Okay, he initiated a public road building project. So it was also a project in which government was investing to create you know, long term capital, to create capital. Okay, like fixed capital. So this is known as gross fixed capital formation. Okay, so in the form of global quadrilateral, the link metro cities using high quality road network and Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana to provide good all weather road connectivity to unconnected habitations. Okay, these initiatives sowed the seeds of economic revival, culminating in an investment and export led boom. In the 2000s, GDP grew at 8 to 9% annually. So the author is mentioning that, like, you know, that program that was initiated by the Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So Prime Minister has taken the initiative that we are going to build roads in country. Okay, so they have, you know, built quadrilateral roads to connect big cities in India, and that has actually, you know, led to economic revival, economic growth over the long term. Okay, so now what has happened? Now after then, like in 2000s, means like after 3-4 years, we started seeing the fruits of the investment that the government has made that time. Okay, so the GDP of India started growing from 8 to 9% annually, and in comparison, the investment record during the 2010s has been dismal. However, a recent uptick is evident in the real gross fixed capital formation rate. The fixed investment to GDP ratio, which is net of inflation, the ratio recovered to 32.5% in 2019-20 from a low of 30.7% in 15-16. Okay, so the thing is, now the author is comparing the data of different years, right, like in which year what percentage of GDP was actually invested for the gross fixed capital formation and how it has been changing over the years. Okay, so now here the author is saying that Ms. Sitharaman has claimed that the government sustained the investment tempo even during the novel coronavirus pandemic. Okay, as in June edition of the Ministry of Finance's monthly economic review, the fixed investment to GDP ratio was 32% in 2021-22. Okay, so like the Ministry of Finance has recently released the economic survey, okay, monthly economic review, where they have mentioned that, like, this fixed investment to GDP ratio, okay, was 32% in 2021-22. However, there is need for caution in reading the most recent data as they are subject to revision. Moreover, the budgetary definition of investment refers to financial investments, which include purchases of existing financial assets or loans offered to states, and not just capital formation representing an expansion of the productive potential. Now here the author is going into little detail that investment refers to multiple things, like one is like like if we have taken loan, so if we repay, so that is also a kind of capital expenditure. Apart from this, like the loans that we have offered to states, like if we get back those loans, that's going to form a part of capital account. So the author is talking about multiple options of capital accounting, but at the same time the author is saying that like only gross fixed capital formation or capital formation through creating fixed asset is not the only like investment that the government may have reported in this particular report. Okay, so this is the thing. So let us understand about like what is gross capital formation. Okay, what is gross capital formation? The author wants to talk about gross capital formation. So the National Accounts Statistics provides disaggregation of gross capital formation by sectors, type of assets and modes of financing, and over 90% of GCF consists of fixed investments. The upturn in the investment rate is welcome, though its productive potential depends on its composition. Okay, so the author is being very cautious about like how the investment is being made, in what perspective it is being made, and like what can be the benefit or fruit out of it. Okay, so now the author has given multiple data, so we don't need to go through all these data figures. So we need to understand that fixed capital formation is is an idea that's going to help the economy grow at a faster pace at a later date, because like when we are creating fixed assets, so these fixed assets will have long term benefits. So like we are now investing, but the benefits are going to come like at a later date. Okay, so we have to have patience also for seeing that the project is completely executed. Okay, from our end, the capital assets have been created, and later on like we are going to witness benefit out of it. So as roads and communications are classic public goods, investment in them is welcome. Okay, but overemphasizing it may be lopsided. For healthy domestic output growth, there is need for balance between directly productive investments and infrastructure investments. Okay, so here the author is saying like there can be like we can go for directly productive investments and also capital formation investments. So like we need to balance the need. Okay, if we don't balance it properly, so like in that case, like only like if we are giving 90% of the total funding like for investment in creating capital assets only, so that will be like little unbalanced. So the author is highlighting that factor also here. Now here the author is talking about like import dependence. The author has mentioned that like our import dependence has grown. Okay, that's not a healthy trend, because like we should be self sufficient, we should be self reliant, which is known as Atmanirbhar Bharat. So the author is mentioning here that like over here what is happening, that like our import dependence, like we are dependent more on imports, not on like our own produce. So like that's not a healthy trend. And so here the author is talking about like Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, which is a right step, but like Atmanirbhar Bharat mission like should have been brought long ago, or when it is like brought now, we need to make it sure that like it is implemented in letter and spirit, so that like we can see the fruit of Atmanirbhar Bharat mission. Apart from this, the author is criticizing about Make in India campaign. Okay, why? Because he is saying that like it failed to take off, it failed to actually give us the desired outcome, desired result. Okay, this Make in India initiative. Okay, why? Because like we have run the Make in India campaign so much that like our like ranking in one of the one of the global ranking, which is ease of doing business ranking, has substantially improved Earlier, like we were placed at 142nd place in 2014. Now it is in 63rd place in 2019. So that's a huge jump. But the thing is, like, this is not the only picture, but like, just coming in the top rank is not going to help us much. We need to, introspect in a deeper manner to understand, like, what is going to help us more in growing. Okay. So the author is saying the contribution of foreign capital to financing GCF fell to 2.5% in 2019-20 from 3.8% in 2014-15. Okay, so these are different data. Like, we don't need to remember the data, but like, we need to like see like how, different sectors of Indian economy are affected by what kind of steps of the government. Okay, so they are the author is now talking about public investment. Okay, so the finance minister has claimed that public investment is the pivot of the ongoing investment led economic revival. Okay, so the finance minister is of the opinion that, like, if government of India is making investment in creating, fixed assets, capital, etc., so that's going to, be a pivot, that's going to be the central idea. Only then the private sector is going to, invest more. Okay, first the government has to do it, then private will be influenced, private sector will be influenced, and they are they will be motivated and they will invest more. So that will lead to economic revival. The recent upturn in aggregate capital formation to GDP ratio is positive, though the rate is still lower than the mark in the early 2010s. Okay, so the budgetary figure refers to financial investment, not estimates of capital formation, indicating expansion of the economy's productive capacity. Okay, so like, you can read all these lines, but the basic idea is like, when we are going for public investment, so we have to be rational, we have to look into other areas of investment as well, and we have to make it sure that, like, the investment is balanced for healthy revival of the economy. Okay, from within and from outside. Okay, from within means like people are getting benefited, from outside means like the outsiders, like people from outside India, they also should perceive that India is growing. Okay, so India has revived its economy. So this is the thing. So with this we will take another article. Okay, in this article we are going to talk about 5G spectrum auction process. Okay, so the article says the 5G spectrum auction from tomorrow. Okay, so like, from tomorrow we may say we may see like, the auction process to start for 5G spectrum. Okay, so see, like, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI, and the government of India, basically the government of India holds right to auction the frequency bands to different commercial companies, like, telecom companies. So there are many telecom companies like that are interested to start the 5G, services in India, and these companies are going to be the first and the early ones to make an investment in the 5G sector. Okay, so so the government is also very has very positive, optimistic view about this thing. So now we can see many companies, many telecom companies, for example Reliance Jio, okay, Jio, then Vodafone Idea, then like, Adani, Mr. Adani has also come up with a company. So that is also, looking forward to invest more. So like Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel, Vodafone, and Adani Networks. Okay, so Reliance Jio, they have, the author has given the data over here. So EMD stands for earnest money deposit. Okay, so like if any private player wants to bid, okay, in any auction, they have to deposit an earnest money. This earnest money is, maybe 8 to 10 times lesser than the actual prize money for the thing that they are going to bid for. Okay, so these companies like Reliance Jio has, provided 14,000 crore rupees. Okay, 14,000 crore rupees as earnest money deposit. Bharti Airtel 5,500 crore, Vodafone Idea 2,200 crore, and Adani Data Networks, okay, 100 crore. So these companies has given earnest money deposit to the government. So it really shows that Reliance Jio, they are more willing to invest more, okay, and they want to like go for the bidding process with a high hand, like with the upper hand, because like they have deposited such a huge amount as earnest money. Okay, this is one thing. Apart from this, potential worth of the bids on auction day. So they have mentioned this thing: eligibility points assigned for auction, net worth, okay, last year's earnest money deposit, then worth of spectrum picked up last year. So the author has given a data, the data that actually helps us to understand like how much these companies are investing this year, how much they have invested next year, like as earnest money deposit, and like for what amount they are going to bid for. Okay, so they have mentioned everything here. So this is the thing. Now these companies, I mean like these companies are going to bid in the auction. So after then the government is going to award, okay, it's going to award licenses to these companies for operating in a certain frequency range. Okay, so after getting license, these companies will roll out their plans. Okay, they will create infrastructure for 5G. They will roll out SIM cards or plans for the users, and like we like me, you and all of us will soon be like in a position to start using 5G networks in India. Okay, so the as of now it is being predicted that like 5G will have internet speed around 10 like 8 to 10 times faster, 8 to 10 times more internet speed as compared to the current 4G. Okay, so this is a healthy trend. Like Indian economy is actually like going forward to accept 5G as a like 5G as a internet connectivity system, and soon we all of us will start using 5G. Okay, most of us will start using 5G. So it is expected that the mid and high band spectrum will be utilized by telecom service providers to roll out 5G services, wherein speeds would be 10 times higher than what is possible through the current 4G network. Okay, so like they have mentioned about various other companies also, but like it is important for us to understand that like bringing 5G technology, bringing I mean like 5G internet connection will really help the Indian economy, because like all of us will get faster internet and the companies will get faster internet. So they are going to grow faster, because data transfer will be faster as of now. So this is the thing. So they have discussed about the earnest money deposit that I have already discussed with you. So in your free time you can read about these things and you can understand more. Now let us take another article. This article says China launches, okay, this article says China launches second space station module. Okay, so here they have mentioned the name of the module also, which is known as Ventian, to host space for experiments, serve as short-term living quarters. Okay, so what has happened? China has launched Ventian. So this Ventian is going to be a module where like people will use it as short-term living quarters, okay, in the space. Okay, so this is a space module that has been launched by China. Is it the first module that the China has launched? No. Before this, China has launched Tianwen-1. Okay, that Tianwen-1 is actually is actually one of the part of this particular space station that China is building. So this is the second thing. Why it is important? Because this showcases the China's technical capabilities. Like it is also like in the race of creating its own space station in the world. Okay, like in the atmosphere. So this is the thing. China on Sunday launched the second of 3 modules to its permanent space station. So China is going to create a permanent space station for itself, and it has launched the second module. The third module will be launched very soon. After this, they are going to integrate all these modules and they are going to make this space station, permanent space station, functional. So like it also should give us some kind of competitiveness, so that like we like India also has plans that like we also want to make our own space station. Okay, as of now no one country in the world has their own space station. Okay, so as of now we have International Space Station. That space station is a collaborative project of more than 4-5 countries, okay, like there is United States of America, European Union, Canadian Space Agency, Japanese space agency which is known as JAXA, then like Russian Space Agency, Roscosmos. So all these space agencies are collaborating together so that the International Space Station can be functional, okay. So it is already functional, so it is a collaborative project, but now China is building its own permanent space station. So China is trying to compete with all these countries. So India also has plans that we also want to have our own space station, and there is a timeline also that the Department of Space or the Indian Space Research Organization has taken for itself. So we need to wait and watch how soon we can have our own space station. Why this is a trigger point for us? Because China, our immediate neighbor, which is also an a kind of adversary in certain areas, okay. So it's not an enemy country, but it's a adversary in certain areas. Although we have economic ties with China, we import lot of things from China. But at the same time, we need to create our own capabilities. Why? Because we want to grow, further, when it comes to space programs in the world. So this is the thing. So they have mentioned in detail, okay, name of this module is Ventian, okay, Ventian, and it is Quest for Heavens, okay, laboratory module. They have launched this thing, and they have launched it using a rocket, okay. It is the China's most powerful rocket. It is known as Long March 5B, okay. It is known as Long March 5B. So they are launching using Long March 5B. Apart from this, they have mentioned multiple details about which news agency has reported what and all. We don't need to go much detail into it, okay, because this is a science and technology project. So we just need to understand China is building its own space station. So India is also in the race of building its own space station. So now we need to focus more on creating our space station and make it happen very soon in the future. With this, now let us talk about another topic. This is the last topic for the day, and this is an editorial article. So this was there in the editorial page of today. We are going to discuss in detail. We have already taken one editorial topic in our discussion today in the second article itself, okay. Now we are going to take another editorial topic. So this topic will be little bigger, okay. But the thing is it is very important for us to understand this topic. Why? Because it is going to help us, right, to understand deeper perspective related to this topic. So let us quickly take this topic, okay. It says MC12 over, its gains for the developed world, okay. India, which found itself on the losing side at the 12th Ministerial Conference of the WTO, needs to course correct, okay. Here the author is talking about MC12. So what is MC12? Let us understand what is MC12. MC12 simply, it is the shortest form of representing 12th Ministerial Conference, okay. So the World Trade Organization conducts ministerial conference, right, after a certain frequency, after a certain time interval. So this time they have conducted 12th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization. Why the ministerial conference is conducted? So that they can discuss upon, or they can vote upon some of the things, some of the things are very crucial. I mean some of the topics are very crucial where WTO has to take a decision, okay. So things are put forward for decision by WTO, and for taking those decisions the ministerial conference are held where different countries vote, okay. They participate in voting, and after then a decision comes from WTO, and that is implemented across nations who are part of WTO, okay. Not only implemented, but a rule is set, okay, so that other countries are going to follow those rules, okay. So recently what has happened in this article, the author has mentioned about one specific thing where India and, okay, where India and South Africa, okay, India and South Africa, these two countries have put forward a proposal in 2020, okay, to WTO, and in this proposal India and South Africa have sought to temporarily suspend the protection of intellectual property rights such as patents, copyrights, industrial designs and trade secrets, so that production of vaccines, therapeutics and diagnostics could be ramped up to help overcome the crisis and fight the COVID-19 pandemic. So India and Africa, they together put forward a proposal to World Trade Organization, so that World Trade Organization can stop the rights for certain duration of intellectual property rights, especially related to patents, copyrights and industrial designs, okay. So that these countries like India, South Africa, so that they can ramp up means they can make more vaccines, okay, without having to give royalty to the manufacturers, to the original patent holders, okay, for these vaccines, okay. But the thing is, this particular proposal, I mean, after this, the European Union, they have also come up with a counter proposal, okay, and their counter proposal sought to undermine this particular proposal of these two countries, okay. But in this 12th ministerial meeting, in this 12th ministerial conference, what has happened? The WTO members have voted upon, in favor of the European Union proposal. So India's and South Africa's proposal was, turned down. So that's why it is a losing moment for India, okay, so in the World Trade Organization. And at the same time, this was a win-win situation for the Western countries. Western countries means developed countries, including the European Union and the United States of America. So in this article, they have mentioned in detail, okay, the author has mentioned in detail, what are the things that India should look forward, we need to correct our course of action, so that in future we do not, see such a setback in WTO, okay. So this is the prime proposal by the author, that we need to correct our course of action, we need to, correct the direction in which we are moving, so that we also emerge as winners in international forums like World Trade Organization, okay. So you can read about this thing in your free time, okay, in your free time, how and what has been said about this. So that's all for the discussion today. Thank you so much everyone for attending today's session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you. Welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Study General Studies with Lukmaan IAS for building comprehensive knowledge. GS paper 2 and 4 will be taken by S. Ansari and other papers will be covered by renowned faculties. Live classes are as effective as offline classes. The classes are highly interactive in nature. Your doubts and queries will be addressed and there will be dictation of notes. In the last 10 years, Lukmaan IAS has set up a niche in the field of UPSC guidance.